Thank you, Mitesh. Give him a round of applause, please. A real round of applause. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Mitesh, you should stop saying, and everybody here, you should stop saying I hit the nail on the head. Because you don't know me, I'm a show business guy. You say I hit the nail on the head too many times, I'm going to show up and want to chair the audit committee at Transnet, I tell you right now. And say, Mitesh said I hit the nail on the head at the annual audit committee conference. What more do you want? What skill sets do you want? Come on now, step aside, let me chair the committee. And then I'll be absent from all the meetings, all of them. Apologize in advance. We're going to move to we are only 15 minutes behind time, so we're not going to struggle to finish at the advertised time. So no advertising standards authority for you today. We have the first simulation. The first simulation is about where I can't think of a more important level of government than municipality. I can't. When I say I live in South Africa, I mean I live in Mondio, 304 Ashton. I don't care if Johannesburg is a world-class African city. It doesn't mean anything to me. If I step out, the refuse is not removed, my South Africa is dirty. If I step out, the lights are not working, my South Africa is dark. If I step out and try and turn on the tap and no water comes out, my South Africa is dry. It doesn't matter what the reason is. It doesn't matter if the UPS wasn't working at the power station so the water couldn't pump. It really doesn't matter. My South Africa is messed up. And that's where I believe, in fairness, I should say to my government leaders that they should stop asking us to not forget where we were 20 years ago. Because if I open the tap and the water doesn't come out, that has nothing to do with 20 years. It's just got to do with that the water is not giving me any tap. I mean, tap is not giving me water, or even that is the actual spoonerism that we should be dealing with. I am sure that if we get the audit committees at municipalities to work, we would have solved a large chunk of the problems that face us. And we would have taken our country a step forward. In fact, a major, major step. So the chair of this audit committee is someone who has a BCom and Bachelor of Accounting degree from WITS, has passed the first part of the PE, Public Auditors and Accountants, PAAG board exam, completed his articles with PwC in Johannesburg. He worked for Absa Corporate for 5 years doing financial reporting and statutory banking reporting, and he joined Allocap and a corporate finance company, during which time he spent time consulting on the following projects, including Spoornet, Safcol privatization, City of Johannesburg debtors, there's the one, debtors restructuring, monitoring of municipalities, revenue enhancement for metros. I want to ask him why I still don't get my account on time. He spent 4 of the 9 years at Allocap taking responsibility for the setup of the administration function after the management buyout and running the full financial and HR function. He's currently financial director for Shining Star Petrochem, a licensed petroleum wholesaler. He's chair of several audit committees, and he's a member of the Institute of Directors. The chairman of this audit committee, ladies and gentlemen, is none other than Skhumbuzo Nombembe. Skhumbuzo, is your cast ready, sir? Please come to the stage and introduce them and take us through we will take until around 10 o'clock, 10:05, but leave enough time for questions after that. So 10:05, if you are able to, please wrap up so that we can take the questions. Emma will help us with the questions. Give them a round of applause. This is a tough audit committee meeting we are attending right here. All right, Skhumbuzo, we are in your hands.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, the program director has already introduced me, so he saved me on that one. Here, basically, we're going to present a typical audit committee meeting for a municipality. For this simulation, we've picked up a district municipality, which the name is basically Tropical District Municipality. Joe mentioned something yesterday regarding how thorough the audit committee members should be in terms of interrogating management, in terms of getting answers for the issues that have happened to the institution. But I think today we're going to have a challenge because we've only got an hour to go through a meeting that would normally take about 5 to 6 hours. So please bear with us. If there are any issues that need to be clarified further, I would request maybe people can ask them during the Q&A session here. The team here, basically, I'll just introduce them. Okay, I'll be the chair of the meeting. The other members, basically, we've got, I'll just ask a member to just maybe stand up or lift up a hand so that people can understand, see who he is. Bethwell Nemagovani, he's basically the audit committee member. We've got Ahmed Pando, also another audit committee member. We've got Philip Matumela, he's basically the chief audit executive. We've got Tebe Matubatuba, who's going to be the MM, the municipal manager for the district. We've got Sangita Kalen, who's going to be the CFO. The other person that we've got here is basically the Smanga Reuters, who is basically the chief risk officer. The last person is basically the Solomon Ngomezulu, who's going to be our scribe. I think that's our team, so we'll start the meeting. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tropical District Municipality Audit Committee. Before we start, I'd like the scribe, Mr. Ngomezulu, to just read the notice of the meeting for us here.
Chair, the notice of the meeting is hereby given that the Audit Committee meeting to be held on Friday, 25th of July, 2014 at 9 in the Mayor's Office boardroom to discuss issues as they appear on the agenda here under. It was given on time, Chair. All the members of the committee did receive it.
Okay. Thanks a lot, then, Solomon. Just to move through the agenda, I'll also come back to you, to basically Solomon, to just take us through in terms of the credentials. On our side, as the committee members, we've got all the committee members. We've got Ahmed, we've got as well Bethwell, who's here. So we've got the quorum. So just in terms of the other people who are supposed to be here, just if you can indicate for us who's couldn't make it or maybe who's apologized.
Chair, we received only 2 apologies. That is the Director, Strategic Services, and the Internal Auditor. All the members are present, Chair.
Okay. No, thanks a lot. Then I think we'll note those for the meeting, for the minutes. Okay. All right. The next item on our agenda is for us to look at the adoption, basically, of the agenda and see if there are any changes or additions that we would like to make to the agenda itself, or maybe move things around. I'll just open it to the floor. I've got a suggestion. We've got an item here on item number 13, the risk and control assessment. I think if we can move that to just below number 6 after the minutes, so at least because we need to just go through that before we go through the internal audit plan. That is a suggestion. And if maybe there's no objection from other members, I think I'll be
happy for adoption. Seconded.
Okay, thanks. I think that was, I assume that's the only change that people we're going to accommodate for now. Okay. Let's proceed. The next item, then I'll ask Ms. Tebe to basically take us through if there's any official announcement, any developments that we don't know about in the institution in the last meeting and basically today.
Thank you, Chair. There is a special announcement. As the Secretary just announced that we have an apology from the Director of Strategic Services. Unfortunately, the Director of Strategic Services has to be suspended. He was supposed to be part of this meeting. This is due, as you might be aware, that we were doing an extensive investigation. So we had to finalize the investigation. That's why we ended up suspending him on the activities. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tebe. What we'll do, I think I had a discussion earlier with Tebe. He said he'll brief us in more detail maybe after this meeting as committee members at least you can
Yes.
source of.
Can't hear.
Oh, okay. We'll have a meeting after with the municipal manager after this meeting, just for him to take us through what exactly transpired and what led to the suspension of the director of strategic services, so at least we can be briefed. I think that being the case, I think let's proceed. The next item would be the confirmation of the minutes. If you go to page, I think starting from page 8, let's just go through them. I'll just ask members to just maybe highlight any corrections that maybe they pick up. Okay, page 8, if there's anything you can just highlight. Page 9.
Chair, page 9. Under action plans, the sentence that reads about the asset register, I believe that the reason why those tags fell off was because of poor quality. Chair, on page 9 of the document, under action plans, I believe that the way the sentence reads is that the asset tags were replaced because the old ones fell off the tagged assets. It was really, the essence of the issue was really around the poor quality of the tag which had faded. So I'd like the correction, please, to be noted from the company secretary and the change.
Thank you.
All right, let's proceed then. Page 10. Page 11. Okay, page 12. Okay, if there are no other changes, I think maybe I'll propose that we adopt these minutes with the changes, and then I'll sign them once the corrections have been made to the minutes. Then I think maybe we can formally adopt them then. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Let's continue with our agenda. The next item on the agenda, remember, we've moved the risk assessment to just after the minute. Oh, sorry,
Matters
one
arising.
item, the matters arising. Almost left that one out. Yes. We've got a list of all the items that were supposed to be followed up from the last meeting. Most of them have been answered, but there are a couple of them, that maybe have not been. If you can just take us through those items, at least we can know basically what happened then.
Thank you, Chair. The items which were part to be followed up, as in regard to the management should ensure the audit action plan is updated regularly and followed up on time. This has been done, Chair. It is part of the pack for this meeting. And also the other item, which is on page 13, we have a revised audit action plan. This also has been sent and circulated to all the members, and it will be part of this discussion of this for this meeting. The other matters also, Chair, which is on page 14. This is in regard to the internal audit assignments, the action to be action there. Recommendation on all audit assignments finding need to be implemented to all the reports as per the review. This has been done, Chair, and it has been advised to all the other key officials, and it will be part of the discussion for this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, just to add, I think there was an item there for the circulation of the action plan after the amendments on the 14th of May. I think I can confirm that we did get that document and we've reviewed it, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's continue then with the rest of the agenda. I'll call Ms. Manga then to just take us through the risk assessment that was done for the institution then.
Thanks, Chair. I hereby present the report on risk and control self-assessment to the Audit Committee. Chair, given that this report was circulated already to all members, who then provided their inputs, with your permission then, I will only touch on key matters, especially on those that the Audit Committee has already expressed their dissatisfaction in the past. Perhaps I must start at the beginning. Chair, given that this report was circulated to all members who then provide their inputs, with your permission, I will only touch on key matters, especially on those that the Audit Committee has already expressed their dissatisfaction. In terms of page 159, with regard to the risk assessment processes, and that is outlined in paragraph 2.1 and paragraph 2.2, a workshop was conducted to identify strategic and operational risks with the potential to impede the municipality's ability to achieve its objectives and program goals. I must indicate, Chair, that the availability of senior managers and other relevant staff to attend these workshops has been a challenge. However, the matter has been taken up with the accounting officer, who then assisted us in ensuring that we get the necessary cooperation. When we move to paragraph 2.4, like I've indicated, I'm not going to read the report line by line. Paragraph 2.4 outlines the methodology in terms of rating of risks and controls. Chair, we have incorporated the audit committee inputs where we are required to clearly explain the phases followed from the rating of the inherent risks up until the point where we determine our residual risks. And that is clearly outlined in paragraph 2.4. Page 161, paragraph 3, depicts the top 10 risks of the municipality. Chair, the crux of the matter here is that this graphical representation that is on page 161 is to articulate the residual risk level, and it is also to obtain an understanding of the municipality's key risks that should be given high priority, such that the goals and objectives can be met effectively, efficiently, and economically. Management has been made aware, Chair, that the residual rating, as it appears in this graph, for all these 10 risks is above 20, which is above the moderate level. And this residual rating of 20 is then used as a threshold in terms of understanding the level of action to be taken in managing our risks. In conclusion, Chair, we maintain that there's no point in putting together risk registers and they gather dust in our drawers. As a risk management team, we will be monitoring the implementation of the risk mitigation plans. And this will be done on a quarterly basis. And the report will then be presented to the Risk Management Committee, which will discharge their responsibilities as defined in the Risk Management Committee Charter. The Risk Management Committee will then prepare its own report for audit committee purposes. I thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll just invite other members to give any additional comments if there's anything else. I know I've already commented on this document, but if there's anything else that you've picked up since then, I'd invite you to just comment on them and add those comments.
I don't have further comments, Chair. My comments have already been factored in. Thanks.
Okay, all right, thanks a lot then.
No comments on my side, Chair.
Okay, thanks a lot then, Ahmed. Okay. What we'll do then, I think, leading to this, I mean, I'd like the Chief Audit Executive to basically take us through the next item on the agenda, which is basically...
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Is it on this check?
Thanks a lot, Smanga, for the risk assessment that you've just presented. What I'll do then, we'll move to the next section, which basically relates to the approval of a number of documents relating to the charters. Okay, we'll move to the next section there, which basically deals with the approval of a number of documents, including the audit committee charter, internal audit charter. What I would like to take in terms of what we've just listened, what Smang has just presented, I'd like the Chief Audit Executive to just confirm that these risks as assessed have been taken into account in basically into compiling the plan that we're going to be using for the coming year. Then I'll hand over to you, Philip, just to take us through to all the documents, starting with the internal audit charter.
Thank you, Chair. I can confirm indeed that when we did the plan, we did take into consideration the updated risk assessments. If I can take us through the internal audit charter, Chair, I'll take its contents as read, but what I'll highlight is that it's been prepared in accordance with the Municipal Finance Management Act. We've also prepared it in line with the standards for the professional practice of internal auditing, and also considered the requirements of the King 3 report on corporate governance. Having taken it as read, maybe I'll just highlight one key change on 8.5 regarding our quality assurance and improvement. Under 8.5.2, we've now made a provision there, Chair, for once every 5 years, we will be subjected to an external independent quality review in line with the standards of the professional practice of internal audit. So that's the key change that I would like to highlight, and I'll take questions, Chair, if there's any regarding the internal audit charter.
All right, thanks a lot then, Philip. I'll just invite the members to comment if there's any items that they've picked up that maybe needs to be addressed in this charter.
Thanks, Chair. I just have 2 points. The first point is under 8.2. What we are saying under 8.2, is that any staff transferred into the internal audit function from other departments should not review any aspects of their previous department's work until a reasonable interval of time has passed. I think that is too relative. It will be very difficult to determine what is acceptable as reasonable. The internal audit standards dictate a year, so I think we should just stick to that, Chair. Second point, 8.5.2, the standards also dictate that our charter should define what is consulting services as well as assurance services. And our charter currently only defines, the other assurance, not consulting. Thanks, Chair.
Ahmed, I don't know if you've got
Yeah,
anything to
maybe
add.
one question.
Chair, thank you. I've looked at the document, Chair. I think the one thing that I wanted to raise over and above what was raised from the member is on the tracking of this document, the changes. I think it's good when it comes to the audit committee to identify which changes, what the changes are, as opposed to seeing the document in its current form. It just helps the committee identifying what has actually changed in line with what the CAE has spoken about. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks a lot, Ahmed. Just like to add something on point number 10. It deals with the consulting activities. I think just want us to flag this one and note it that, any other services that are not in the plan needs to come to this committee so that it can be approved, because it could affect the implementation of our plan. It might not end up not completing the assignment that we're supposed to do for the year. If that can be noted, please. Okay. All right. I think we can continue then with that if there are no other comments. The next item there would be the internal audit plan.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, if we move to page 26 of our packs, detailed therein is our proposed 3-year internal audit plan, which is strategic in nature. We've also prepared it in line with the requirements of the standards of internal auditing and also the acts that we need to comply with. Our plan is risk-based, as I've mentioned earlier, so we did take into account the latest risk status of the municipality. And if I can just highlight specifically, if we go to page 31, where I think key for this meeting, we've demonstrated our annual plan for the current year. So that's the operational plan for 2014-15 for your approval. And that highlights the focus of our work that we will be doing in the next months to come as an internal audit department. Now, if there are any questions on the internal audit plan, I'll take them. Chair?
Okay, thanks, Philip. I think I'll just give to the other members to just comment on those issues.
Thanks, Chair. I see you have, your budget has 3,600 hours. I am struggling to see how you are going to be able to achieve this budget whilst you only have yourself as the director and one internal auditor. And looking at your notes, you're saying that the director will have productive time of 60%, whereas the internal auditor will have the productive time of 70%. That gives us only a difference of 10%. With all the strategic issues that you have to deal with as the CAE, how are you going to be able to achieve this? That's the first issue. The second issue is that the IA Charter talks about you reviewing combined assurance to ensure that it is effective. And I don't see anything in your plan regarding this in the 3 years to come. Will you please explain that?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. This plan has been prepared on the basis of the department currently being staffed with 2 staff members. So there's myself, as you will know, and the internal auditor who is not with us today. So we've planned with those hours in mind. And unfortunately, because of that situation or how we are structured right now, I will be involved with a lot of the actual execution of the work. So I will be doing a lot of the tests myself. We do have a vacancy that's been advertised, and we are looking to fill that once we do some interviews to get another member into the internal audit team to assist us with the projects. Now, regarding the reviews, I think what maybe it's not showing in this plan, but if through the quality assurance protocols that are built into the internal audit charter that we just went through, we do and perform ongoing reviews of the work that the team will perform. And we also have an ongoing quality assurance improvement program that's part of the internal audit manual and procedures that we implement. Thank you, Chair.
All right.
Chair, I'm not covered on the second question. It's about the review of the assurance providers, as in risk, for example. That's what is not covered.
Okay.
Oh, so, okay, I think I get the question. Sorry there, Chair, I think I'd misunderstood the question. So, yes, we have built in terms of the combined assurance model. So if you refer back again to the charter, we have specifically included a section there on combined assurance, including the reliance that we will place on some of the work that is done by areas like risk management. We do have a specific audit that's planned for risk management as part of fulfilling the requirements of our internal audit conclusions at the end of the year.
Chair, let's just close this one. I think what I'll suggest is that when they review the plan, before it comes back here for final approval, they should include on the plan a project on reviewing risk. Thanks.
Can I just have one follow-up question? To the Director Internal Audit, to what extent does external audit place reliance on your work? Can you just give us an indication? Have you taken that, factored that into some of your work, etc.?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I think at the moment we are not yet at the desired levels of reliance from AG in terms of the reliance that they place. We do cooperate with them, so in preparing this plan, we did set up and meet with them and share our view in terms of the projects that we wanted to do. There are specific audits around internal financial controls, which they have said that if we time our procedures around when they will do the year-end audit, if our coverage is adequate, we will submit our files to them, and I think they will place a certain level of reliance. But again, it's an area where we are working to see how we can get to full reliance. It's a new thing that we are trying to implement, but there is a degree of reliance, but not yet full.
All right, thanks a lot then. I think to close this section then, Philip, I would suggest that you go back to the plan and then incorporate all the proposed changes, including the number of hours that will be allocated to the new person who's going to be appointed, and also the change in terms of the risk management is highlighted by Bethwell. Okay, the next item then we can look at is basically the internal audit methodology.
Thank you, Chair. If I can take us through the internal audit methodology that's presented from page 33 of our packs. This methodology is aligned to the standards for the professional practice of internal auditing, and it looks at our risk-based approach in executing the projects that are assigned before us, and it takes into account both our assurance and consulting type engagements. Now, I'll take the methodology as read and probably ask for questions if there are any regarding the methodology itself.
Chair, through you, I have one question on page 39, 4.2.4. Just want to understand from the Director Internal Audit on the use of automated tools to actually increase our sampling size, and to what extent will we be making use of them through our auditing process?
If I can, through you, Chair, I think the point is taken. Currently, our samples are very manual, but we are looking at the possibility of engaging a tool that can assist us with computer-assisted audit techniques. So it's, again, I think when we look at next year's plan, we are hoping to have built that in. But right now, we're doing some exploratory work on a tool that we can use to assist us with those techniques. And I believe implementing that will bring more efficiency and higher coverage of the extent of the tests we'll be able to perform.
Okay, I don't know if there are any other comments on this item. Okay, if not, then I think what we'll do, just to conclude on your section, Philip, I think let's go back and change the documents, the internal audit charter, the plan, and also the internal audit methodology. I think what I'd recommend that we approve this document subject to these changes, then we can sign them at the next meeting, audit committee meeting then.
Noted, Chair.
Okay, all right. Let's proceed then, okay. The next item basically is to look at the audit committee charter. Okay, I'll deal with that. The main change on this charter, I think it's been circulated to the members of the committee and it's been reviewed. It highlights the main change basically from what we had before is that our previous charter was solely based on section 166 of the PFM of the MFMA. If no other
Through you,
issues,
Chair. Through you, Chair, I've got just 3 issues. Number one, I think we need to state it clearly that we've had serious challenges previously in terms of receiving packs very late, sometimes just a day before the meeting, and we have found that to be unacceptable. So we would want it to be stated categorically in the charter that we'll receive our packs at least 7 days prior to the meeting. The second point, under point 3, authority, that's on page 44, we would want it to be stated as well that we have got the authority to commission investigations as we deem fit as the audit committee. The last point is that we allowed to have separate meetings with assurance providers and even with management. Thanks, Chair.
What I'll do, the issue regarding the issue of the PACs is in the charter. It was in the last charter. I think it's just been failure for the Secretariat to basically to implement and give us information in time. I think we'll just ask the municipal manager to just make sure that he can follow up on those aspects because it affects our preparation for the meetings.
Noted, Chairperson. I'll liaison further with the Secretary.
Issues to be raised on this item, I would propose that also we approve this document and send it forward to Council with the changes that have been proposed. And then Council can basically submit it to be approved by Council in their next Council meeting. Okay. The next item is we have to look at is basically the Audit Committee work plan. For the coming year, we've scheduled a number of meetings. Okay, I'll just take you through them. What I've done, we've added 2 meetings to the plan compared to last year's plan. We've got 4 meetings that deal with the standard quarterly meeting that covers the performance reporting and the financial reporting that will assist the mayor and basically in presenting the performance of the municipality into the council. That also covers the issue of risk management and the follow-up on the management action, the management implementation of the actions that of the items that have been raised by the Auditor General. Over and above that, we've got a meeting that will basically look at the approval of the financial statements. That will be basically in the middle of August. We're still going to have that this year. We will finalize that, the approval for the financial statements will submit to the AG. Then in September, we've planned a meeting to basically assess the performance of both the internal audit and the audit committee. I've circulated the pacts, the assessment tools to the various parties that will be participating in that. So if there's anyone who hasn't received it, I'll make sure if it comes back to me, then I'll make sure I can forward those documents. At least people can prepare and make sure we're ready for that. Then the other meeting that we're having is basically because performance management is going to be, AG is going to express an opinion from the 2016 financial year. So we've added 2 meetings, one in February to look at the midterm performance documents, the assessments of the managers, and also the revised SDPIP, because that's what's going to be audited by the AG when they come at the end of the year. The other aspect is basically end of June. We just wanted to make sure we review the alignment of all the planning documents from the SDPIP, the budget, the IDP, so at least we don't experience the same challenges every time we're reporting that there's not lack of alignment between all the documents. I think that basically covers all the meetings that we're going to be looking at for the year. I don't know if there's any other queries or any other questions with regards to this item. I did discuss the schedule with the MM. I don't know if maybe it's got anything else to add, but I think the members as well, I think it was stated before, if there's anything to query, you can basically provide that on the schedule.
through you, Chair, just have one issue. You will remember that in the previous financial year, we cancelled several meetings, rather we postponed them, because all of a sudden we were told that they were clashing with Menko. So we just want the municipal manager to ensure that whilst this document is good on paper, let's make sure that it's effective. We follow it. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, I just want to acknowledge that we have noted that we are improving, ensuring that we don't have those clashes again.
You can avoid those clashes, because I mean, if there's, and also you'll notice that the plan outlines the outcomes that we expected to achieve for each meeting and the reports that are going to be used for preparation. So everyone, even before the agenda is issued, should know what exactly should be prepared for the meeting. So I think maybe it should be circulated to all the managers, at least they are aware exactly what is expected of them. That will make the process much, much smoother. Okay. All right. I think that concludes the section on the approval of documents. The next item we're going to look at is basically the presentation of the action plan. I just want to propose a slide that will handle this slightly differently. Because if you look at item number 8, number 9, and number 10, number 9 is basically looking at the financial information, which is looking at the draft financial statements for the year. Number 10 looks at the annual performance report. Most of the items raised in the management action plans, they affect these two documents. So I propose that maybe we basically hand over to the CFO to take us through the annual financial statements, highlighting any items that are in the action plans that have been, how they've been dealt with in the financial statements.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I take note of how you want it presented. Chair, just before I commence with the action plans and the financial statements, I'd just like to make the committee aware that the draft financial statements are normally planned to be tabled at the 22nd of August Audit Committee meeting before submission for Auditor General. So the finance team has managed to put together a draft that is in front of you today for comment, and the final version of this draft before submission will be tabled at the next meeting. Chair, the financial statements have been prepared in terms of the accounting framework being the generally recognized accounting practice. It is being put in front of the members with regards to obtaining comments and probably improvement areas, so that before we do submit it to the auditors, it's been through vigorous processes internally and through the committee. Chair, I'm going to take the financial statements as read, as it has been circulated, but the members are welcome to ask me questions around the finances.
Chair, through you, I have one question to the CFO. I'm a bit worried about the going concern assumption on which these financial statements have been prepared. If you look at our balance sheet, we have creditors of 24 million and debtors of 10 million. So I want to get a sense of how we're going to close that gap.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, the 10 million is made up of debtors, which we have a vigorous process and a resource that has been dedicated to recover the 10 million. To make up the gap, Chair, through you, we've got investments of about 5.2 million rands that can be called upon. We've got a long-term receivable that I am personally engaging the debtor in order to gain that 1 million rands from that debtor. And I've got call investments as well that also can be called upon, amounting to about 2 million. So that makes up about 8.2 million for the gap. The remaining 6 million to make up the 14 million, as the members can remember, we had a vigorous budgeting process that had commenced in December 2013, and in line with the MFMA, together with all the circulars that have been issued by Treasury and by our department, local department, we've gone in an extensive exercise to reduce the budget. Budgeting around expenditure has been cut, but we're being very sensitive about service delivery and how that expenditure may impact on our service delivery. If members can recall, we went through a vigorous budget approach process at the beginning of the year when we actually wanted to cut certain expenditures, and my team presented to you how it's going to impact and actually not impact on service delivery. The other thing is that we've taken extensive action against any purchases of PPE. We've actually stopped all purchases in this current year at the beginning of this financial year of all PPE that's not core to service delivery. And then the last thing is, as we are now sitting now in July, which is the beginning of our financial year, we've gotten a rate increase, which has now, which will definitely assist us in increasing our revenue. So together with all of this, we have managed to budget for making up this gap, together with probably having a little bit of excess cash flow, and we see ourselves as a going concern for this next 12 months. But we definitely are confident that the plan that we've put in place in terms of expenditure cutting will get us out of this deep waters within the next 3 to 4 months.
Chair. Any other comments on this?
Yes, Chair. Thank God. I think our agency is now seeing the light since we appointed the new CFO. Remember, in the previous year, we failed to submit the financial statements within the due deadline. This year, I see that there's something happening. Thanks, Chair.
No, thanks a lot, then, Bethel. Okay, let's proceed. I think maybe the issue of going concern, I would recommend that we have a note on it, because someone reading these financial statements is going to have these questions. Just to explain that it's being attended to, and the turnaround strategy has been put into place, which will bring back the municipality within 12 months into the black.
Note, Chair.
All right, let's proceed. I think the other item you're going to deal with is basically the agency financial statements and also the audit readiness.
Yes, yes, Chair. Through you, the financial statements for the agency has been included in the pack as well. I must say that we've gotten good response from the agency with regards to getting their draft financial statements out as well. It's been through their audit committee, and I'm pleased to say that we actually do have a bit of input with regards to the quality of the financial statements that has been coming out of the agency. I'm not going to touch much on the financial statements because it hasn't yet been consolidated into our set of financial statements. But if there's any questions, I can definitely attempt to answer it.
All right, thank you. I think maybe what we should do, we'll look at this item in more detail when we actually approve the consolidated financial statements. Then we can go to the statutory audit readiness.
Okay. Chair, on page 88 then, I've provided an audit readiness for both the municipality together with the agency. And as you can see, that we are about 90 to 95% ready for the Auditor General with regards to the audit. As mentioned previously, the financial statements are on track to be approved on the 22nd of August, and we will definitely meet the deadline for submission of the financial statements. We have engaged the AD with regards to this readiness assessment, and also made certain that they are fully aware of what we are ready with, and that they're more than welcome to come earlier for the audit. Thank you, Chair.